So here we go.
Well, Eddie Long built his church from a mere 300 members to the 25,000 people who now call it their spiritual home. And our next guest actually joined the church because he believed in Bishop Long and has come to see him as his spiritual father. Cornelius Best Jr. is also studying to be a minister. He's a grad student at the Interdenominational Theological Center, and he goes by CJ. CJ, thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
I know it's not an easy thing to talk about.
It's not.
And let me ask you, I mean, there's no doubt that Eddie Long has helped hundreds and hundreds of young men. You're one of them. Yes. Tell me what drew you to Bishop Long and what kind of impact he made on you.
Well, what drew me to New Birth initially was the fact that he delivered a word, the word in such a way that I was able to understand it. Not only was I able to understand it, but I was able to identify with the struggles in the Bible. And he is a very sound preacher.
When you see that, what goes through your mind? Are you doubting? Are you in no way believing it? What's your first instinct?
Well, as number one, a believer of the faith, you don't want to see that. You don't want to see your pastor go through this situation, and you don't. More importantly, you don't want to see the young men go through this. But more than anything else, my heart has been for his family, for the family of the individuals, for the families of the young men. Because of the fact that we're focusing on Bishop, but the bigger issue here is he's married, and the fact that he disobeyed the covenant of marriage, if this is true.
Right.
I can believe God as long as I want to. If I want to believe God for a $65 million plane, you cannot stop me. You cannot stop me from dreaming. Now you see why the devil tried so aggressively to discredit my voice. Creflo Dollar asking his members for $65 million. I ain't never asked you for a dime. Plane's 30 years old. I knew it was time to begin to believe God for a new airplane.
Our current ministry plane is no longer usable. We need your help. And I ask all of our partners globally to get on board with Project G650. If they discover life on Mars, if you think a $65 million plane was too much, if they discover that there's life on Mars, they gonna need to hear the gospel, and I'm gonna have to believe God for $1 billion space shuttle because we got to preach the gospel on Mars.
Derek Jackson, sir, you posted something and then you limited your comments. So my husband can't post to you, neither can I. Now, what's amazing about that is that's a little bit cowardly. But what you will not do, and everybody who knows me by now, is one thing you will not do is come from my husband. If it's lies, now if it's the truth, talk about it. But if it's lies, we're not doing that. I don't know if you're married. I think I hear that you cater to single people, and that's cool. And the other part is that I heard you actually just got married, but you don't want your followers to know on that. So for somebody to take a moment, that's actually called to heal marriages and pervert it the way young sir did over there. It's a no on so many levels. But and people can say that we address too much or whatever. We can do what we want because it's our social, and if you don't like it, you can gladly turn it off.
Hillsong, a contemporary yet conservative megachurch using social media to spread its message, boasts celebs like Justin Bieber as followers.
I just want to love Carl more.
The church now embroiled in scandal after its most famous figure, Pastor Carl Lentz, was let go last week for what the church described as, quote, leadership issues and breaches of trust, plus a recent revelation of moral failures. 41-year-old Lentz, who shares 3 children with wife Laura, posting on Instagram after the church's announcement, quote, I was unfaithful in my marriage, the most important relationship in my life. This failure is on me and me alone, and I take full responsibility for my actions. Laura, who worked as a pastor in the church, is also said to be out after the news of the scandal broke. Lent's unconventional look and allure as a rock star pastor, helping to make Christianity cool for both millennials and celebrities alike.
One of the main reasons why I did want to talk about this stuff over here really quickly is, you see really, you can see that a lot of these pastors are pushing what they want. It wasn't really so much about beating up on them, even though I do think you can do that to a degree, but we're not really talking about that per se today. What we're really talking about today is this ability for churches and leaders of churches to push what they want and their own agenda. And you have to me, kind of recognize that. Like, I recognize that even in my own church that I go to, that they're all pushing a certain agenda. And a lot of times that agenda is actually what gets them in trouble. So here we are in what we're going to be talking about today. So just to let me organize everything and we'll get on into this. So you all have heard me say this a million times. I'm always saying this because I want people to really understand what the commandments of God are and how people pervert them. If I get up here and I say anything that you don't agree with, or somebody else says something you don't agree with, the key to it is whether or not it's biblical or not is just really this passage right here in Matthew 22, which you don't hear a lot of people talking about. But, basically says you must love the Lord your God with all your heart, your soul, your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. A second is equally as important. Love your neighbor as yourself. The entire law, that means the Bible, the entire Bible and the demands of the prophets are based on these two commandments. So when you're dealing with people, a lot of times people are preaching what they want. Creflo Dollar actually preaches to one of the most impoverished groups in Atlanta. Okay, and he's trying to raise all this money for a plane and saying, well, I got to take the gospel to Africa, and I got to take it to Australia, and I got to take it to here, and I got to take it there. Truth be told, brother, you could take that $65 million and plant it right here in Atlanta and actually fix the problems of the poverty that are actually in your own backyard. Okay, we don't necessarily, I'm not saying if God literally told you that, then that's one thing. But one thing I've known about God is he don't need a fundraiser like that. I run into people that will just pop up that are billionaires and basically be like, God told me to come over here and give you $100 million. Okay, he doesn't have to. Now, however you guys feel about Creflo, because some of y'all might go to his church, I'm not trying to beat up on him. What I'm trying to talk about is what people's agenda is. Okay, because that's what we're really getting into, agenda. Okay, so here is another quote from the Bible. And again, I generally read Bible things, verbatim, evidently, because, that's the Bible. And this is Paul talking to Timothy. Okay, for people will only love themselves and their money. They will be boastful and proud, scoffing at God, disobedient to their parents and ungrateful. They will consider nothing sacred. They will be unloving, unforgiving. They will slander others and have no self-control. They will be cruel and hate what is good. They will betray their friends, be reckless, be puffed up with pride, and love pleasure rather than God. They will act religious, but they will reject the power that made them godly. So stay away from people like that. They are the kind who work their way into people's homes to win their confidence of what? Vulnerable women. I want all y'all to key in on that. I know we got some guys on, but I really want the women to key in on this. Paul saw this 2,000 years ago. They are the kind that work their way into people's homes and win the confidence of vulnerable women who are burdened with the guilt of sin and controlled by various desires, because everybody want to have sex. Okay, we talk about it for all the new people. I'm sorry if I just hurt your feelings and you was like, oh wow, this new guy, he's saying sex. Okay, that's the issue. That's the whole thing about singleness. We all want to have sex. If you didn't want to have sex, if you could be okay with being 100% celibate for the rest of your life, you wouldn't need a singles group. You could just go on mission trips for the rest of your life. Okay? Such women are forever following new teachings but they never able to understand the truth. Okay, so again, I'm gonna take you back up here. This is the truth. Nothing but this is the truth. Jesus said that the entire law and the demands of the prophets are based on these two commandments. You love God, you love people. That's it. There is nothing else. Everything outside of that is basically man. And Jesus talked about how men teach their own commandments as though they are the commandments of God. Okay, that was one of the first things that we talked about when we started to study Ruth, because we've already done that. And if you guys want to look that up, you can look it up on YouTube. We do have a YouTube channel for all the new people. But in the Ruth story, Ruth made moves towards Boaz. Boaz didn't do everything. Ruth did a lot to get his attention. And the reason why that's important is because, well, we'll get to that in a minute. So here's some numbers. Everybody knows I like to pull information from online. I don't like to just quote myself. So among 30 to 49-year-old Christians, I think that's most people on this call, only 60% are married. Okay, and then you go up and you find that it's a little bit more as you go. Okay, and I love this right in here. I think it's fair to say that churches can be pretty difficult places for single adults, because why? All they talk about is marriage and family. That's all they talk about over and over again. Okay, at the church that I go to, I love it a lot. But even when they put groups together, like they love to have a husband and wife over a group. So if you have something like the middle school ministry, they want a husband and wife over the middle school ministry. They want a husband and wife over this ministry, over that ministry. Almost every ministry is headed by a husband and wife. You know, singles groups within the church, mainly young people are often designated to the needs of younger people. And when we mean by younger people, we generally talk about people in their 20s. And this really is the truth at the church I go to. That was actually one of the things that built, you know, this particular group right now that you're at, Christian Singles Connect. Okay, so all of this rest of this stuff is just basically talking about the numbers. It's just the numbers. You just find that there's a lot of people that are in this group. Okay, so what we're seeing is that churches are disconnected to singles. Okay, this is an old census, evidently, you know, we're in 2020 now. But, you know, like I said, I get these from articles, and this is the LA Times. So the LA Times basically says that at this time, 44% of adults were unmarried, i.e. single. And here we go. Churches think that unmarried congregants have different expectations about the church. These include emphasis on family and marriage, sermons and events. Married congregants, the singles have more time. So they basically want the singles to help out, do everything, because they just think they got all the time in the world. So they're basically using them, in other words. But one of the issues with singles, and this is an issue because we even run into this issue in this group, is that you got a lot of people in this singles group. You got never married people, divorced, widows, seniors, college grads, blah, 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 singles with children, single professionals. And this is true. In this group, we have almost every single group of people, maybe not college grads, but we have probably everybody else, or we've had them to come through. Okay, and this is one of the things that I've always had a problem with. And again, this is one of the things that the church I go to, is that a lot of times the person that leads the singles ministry got married in 1964. You know, or they basically have been married for 50 years and then they think they know everything about being a single. And it's like, dude, you got married when you were 20. You know, you never really had to go out here and fight against the world and try to navigate this world. How do you even know how to talk to me? You know, I've always thought singles groups should be headed by a panel of singles, 4 or 5, but that's actually, you know, my opinion. Here we go. So let's talk about another major issue within the church, is that you see that in society, that this is what this is up here, is that 40%, you know, I don't know where they get all these numbers, but, you know, for roughly, because we don't know what happened to this percent right here. So you could say 40%, that's fine. And then 47% of people are married. But then in the church, there's a lot more people that are married than single. Many times it just depends upon whatever church you go to or whatever. But this was just something that they found, and this was actually in the UK. So there you go, Fraser. This information came from the UK. So again, you can read some of this stuff. I don't always read through it for all the new people. That's why we have the thing, so I don't have to get too deep into the weeds. I just want everyone to know that whatever we talk about, we have information on. Okay, now this is one of the things that I really wanted to get into. And people have heard me talk about this kind of stuff before. Single Christian women are leaving churches at high rates, and that is true. Christian women are leaving because literally they are single. It's no secret that churches exhort marriage. The gender ratio is not in their favor. Attendance is almost 2 to 1. Many women interviewed say it's far worse, 4 to 1. Honestly, in my church, what I've noticed is when I've gone to events, it's been 4 to 1. If I've gone to an event, a singles event, and they'll ask, when I look around the room, I'll admit if there's 50 people there, then there might be 8 guys, and then the rest are women. And this is one of the things that I was saying earlier. This right here is bull garbage. To make matters trickier, in many Christian circles, women aren't supposed to pursue men. This is not in the Bible. That is not in the Bible. I want you all to win. Okay, now I'm not saying that you have to pursue men. I'm not saying you have to do that. As Tashawn says, you can position yourself. Okay, and we talk about that in this group a lot, positioning yourself. But I want to make it clear because, like I said, all these people are pushing their own interests. And a lot of these pastors, what they're telling you is what they want you to do based off how they grew up. When they grew up, they did X, Y, Z, and they don't like necessarily women being a little bit more full. So what they're basically teaching you is their own personal opinion. But you have to realize there's something about a man that will lead a church, that will lead other people. This type of man tends to be a little bit more aggressive than the type of man that is actually average. The average man is not that aggressive. Again, we've talked about that over and over again in this group. If the purpose of you going through and learning is to find someone, and that is the purpose, you should not be as worried if they are as socially confident, what we call socially confident. Again, for all the new people, what this basically means is that there's a lot of guys that have confidence, and they have confidence for different things. They may have confidence to build an empire, to actually, let's say, for instance, become a millionaire by, stocks and bonds, or build a company, or I don't know, just something else. And when you meet them, they seem very meaty and very much manly. But then when you get around them, when they actually are trying to meet a woman, then they might be a little bit shy, or they might be a little bit quiet. And this doesn't mean that they are bad guys or that they are socially inept. What it basically is saying that is not where their strength is. And one of the things that I've tried to encourage women a lot to remember is a man that comes up to you with a 100% super swag, that is not afraid at all, that does not have any kind of nervousness, 9 times out of 10, he has done this process a million times. Okay, so you're not special, boo. Okay, you're just not special. You're just a girl that at this moment in time, he thought you was cute at the checkout line, so now he's saying something to you. But guys that are a little bit more nervous, it kind of shows that they don't do this often. And really, guys that do it all the time, they have more opportunity to cheat. They have more opportunity to basically to do whatever they want. And because of that, that's just one of those types of things. I'm not saying all those guys are bad. Don't get me wrong, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is a lot of times good women will notice a good man. And you can position yourself in, like I said, you ain't gotta ever ask him anything, but you could just be like, hey, how you doing? Welcome to the group or welcome to the party or whatever it is. It's another reason why it's always great if you help out. Women who help out have more opportunities than women that don't. Because if a woman is helping out, let's say, for instance, if we did an event and let's say we have, I'm just going to use Tashawn because I always pick on Tashawn. So if Tashawn is helping me out and Sakanda is helping me out, and I'm like, okay, well, can you guys go and meet everybody? They're like, yeah, sure. You do this. We're going to go meet. So now Tashawn and Sakanda are walking up to new guys that are walking in. Hey, how you guys doing? I'm Tashawn. If you need anything, you can ask me. Blah, 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 blah. I'm Sakanda. If you need anything, you can ask me. Blah, blah, blah. And so now they've introduced themselves. And so now the guys feel more comfortable talking to them because they've already introduced themselves. See, this is not a woman pursuing the man. This is just a woman positioning herself for success. Okay, so we want to make sure that we understand that. Okay, so at the end, you guys might have already read this, but this is a woman who was trying to, get somebody's attention. This is basically what they're saying. And, she's saying after being excluded from church social events because she was seen as a threat to the few men there, she left the church. So she was basically trying to get some guys' attention, and they basically asked her to stop coming to events. And this was a church that did this. This is all man. There's nothing in the Bible. Let's go back so we can make sure. Is God saying women can't talk to men? Oh, okay. It says love God, and love people as yourself. Did either one of those say that women can't do anything? Did either one of those say that women can't wear makeup? Did any one of those things say that women can't do this and that and the third? Everybody's talking about loosing women, but everybody basically keeps putting them back into chains. Okay, so this is some sad information for ladies, but I know mostly people on here are ladies. For all the guys, y'all will have to excuse me a little bit. But basically, this is basically that right there, 100, how many men per 100 women. So for Black people, this is the little group down here, because I know a lot of people on here are Black. For everybody else, you can look at those other ones. But yeah, 2-to-1 right here. It's 2-to-1. But then look over here, atheists. Atheists outnumber almost 2-to-1 the other way. A little over, actually. Kind of sad. But, this is something that I think happens because this is my own opinion. But when you are going to churches and you don't ever feel like they are talking about what, your needs, and then they can't even solve the problems of their own issues, it's kind of hard to keep going. Just be real. My pastor actually talks about it all the time. How a lot of people are basically saying that, the church is really not solving issues. And I kind of say that too, to some degree. Each church has its own agenda, like we talked about in the beginning, and they're just out to solve their agenda. And many times they don't even truly solve their agenda. They just kind of give it some attention, But again, that is up for us to talk about. So here's some takeaways. Okay, and as all the new people, we put this up on the board and then we talk about it, because it's not about Joseph or Jay. Y'all can call me either one, but it's not about me. It's about, let's talk about it. Let's understand it. Let's all give our understanding, our information, and try to grow as a group. So the takeaways for me are, I don't think churches know how to handle singles, or I don't think that they care about singlehood. I really don't. I don't think that they care. I think it is a huge concern for them, which is the second one. because when you bring singles around singles, again, I know it's a Christian group, but you know, singles gonna make mistakes, quote unquote, which means they're gonna be knocking the boots, which means they're gonna be rumbling in the hay, which means they're gonna be in the sheets. Okay, y'all need to get one of those references. And yeah, some of them are gonna do it. Some of them are gonna be celibate all the way, but some of them are gonna do what people do. Then you have a disproportionate amount of men to women in the church. And again, I think that this is for multiple reasons, not so much that we're going to talk about today, but I do think that there are a lot of reasons for that. And then honestly, and this is one of the things I do want to touch on really quickly, churches misinform singles, especially women, on what to do to find someone. And I also want to explain and reiterate this one issue to all of the ladies, because I really want you to kind of get this in your spirit, that there is so much money in women that it made both Oprah Winfrey and Tyler Perry billionaires. So trust me when I tell you, these people love to sell you on hope. They love to sell you on these dreams. They keep you coming back. That's exactly what Steve Harvey was doing. Steve Harvey was picking up where Oprah left off. Okay, and he was just making money. Read my book. This is about my book. Just gonna help you. And singles need to understand, a lot of churches, we are not a part of the agenda. We are more of a nuisance. You know, what do we do with these single people? How do we keep them from having sex? How do we keep them, you know, the women from getting too close to the men so the men will cheat, you know, won't cheat on their wives?